Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Stone with Parenting Aces, and I'm here with Rob Polishook, and we finally got our crazy audio issues worked out. I don't know if it was your mic, my mic, doesn't matter. It's working now. Good morning.
Yes. Hi, Lisa. How are you? It's great to see you again.
It's nice to see you too. I was hoping to show everybody some Southern California sunshine, but lo and behold, it is cloudy and a little cool this morning. So I'm hoping that burns off because I had a beach afternoon planned. So we'll see if that actually gets to happen.
We had some rain here in Florida, so we're going coast to coast.
Oh, wow. Yeah, for sure. Okay. You're a little choppy this morning. I'm not sure what's going on your end. You keep chopping in and out. Maybe it's the rain. Are you there, Rob?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm completely here, and I see you.
Okay.
Okay, so we should be okay.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about returning to tournament play and what parents and players need to be cognizant of. And you have some very definitive thoughts on that. But before we jump into that, I want to just share a little compliment with you. I got an email from one of our podcast listeners this morning, and she had just listened to, there you are. She had just listened to our last podcast and was totally smitten with your advice and asked me how she could get in touch with you. So I urged her to tune in again this morning, and hopefully she'll type a question in the comments, and I'll be able to connect the two of you. But wanted to just stroke your ego a little bit before we get on with today's conversation.
Well, it's always nice to be helpful. That's truly why I do this job. That's why I got into it, because I love helping kids. I love sports, and I love anything that I can do to help make people better and make people more relaxed.
Before we get any further into today's conversation, Rob, can you just share with our viewers what you do? What is your background? Just the quick elevator pitch. Oh, we seem to have lost you again. Are you with us? You are frozen on my screen. Oh, Rob, I think we lost you at the beginning there.
Okay, so you have me back now?
I have you back.
Because I see me. Do you see me?
I see you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a mental training coach. Great. Okay. And what that means, Lisa, is that I work with kids, and by default also some parents, helping kids with nerves, with anxiety, with competition, with anything that will get in their way, performance blocks. I specialize in performance blocks, in different things that oftentimes the athlete isn't even aware that's getting in their way, and things are getting in the way. And so I work with kids on a one-to-one basis, and it's a dream job.
Perfect. So we're hearing every day of more national level tournament cancellations happening in the junior scene. National hard courts, we just heard this week, for 16s and 18s have been canceled. We already knew the 12s and 14s were canceled. Certain sections are announcing that they're canceling larger events that would require some of the kids to travel and stay overnight in hotels and things like that, all due to COVID-19, of course, and all with the idea that we want to keep these kids and the families safe during the pandemic. That said, a lot of people are out on the tennis courts playing, practicing, training, trying to be ready for when tournament play fully opens back up, but certainly also trying to be ready for these local events so that they can go put their competitive muscle to the test. One of the things that I fear is that as our kids start to compete again, that we parents aren't going to adjust our mindset appropriately to understand the things that are going on in our kids' heads as they come back out to compete. And especially those players who are in the college recruiting kind of cycle right now, where the pressure may be greater because they're concerned about what college coaches are going to think and how they're going to get on the radar of these coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll be quiet now and let you talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think first thing we have to do is take a step back and realize how grateful we are right now to be getting back onto the court, to be playing again. No one ever would have thought that we would stop playing tennis, that tournaments would be canceled. And the gratefulness concept is really important, because when you're grateful that you're able to play, you're grateful that you're able to be on a court, you're grateful that you have a support system. What this does is it actually puts you into the present, and it helps you relax. So when they say someone who is grateful, like a Rafael Nadal, when you're grateful from moment to moment, when things happen that you can't control, you'll be in a calmer, more relaxed place. And for me personally, there was a 3-month period where I wasn't able to play on a court. I'm in Florida now, and I am playing back on courts, and they're actually talking about closing the courts back up. But for me, I found a wall that I could hit against. And I was just grateful to be using that wall, to find that wall. So I think that's really, really important to realize how lucky we are, and not to minimize it. And then to understand that during the pandemic, the kind of neat thing about it, it's a reset for everyone. And really, everyone is starting from square one. No one has an advantage. And it's almost like it's a course correction where the mental side of tennis now becomes even that much more important. And to your point, what you said, so now things are happening. So what can we do? The large answer is bring the focus to what we can control, and knowing that's really what we need to be doing right now.
And what is what we can control? I mean, let's talk concrete things, because we want to plant these seeds in the junior player's head, but also in the parents' heads.
Yes. Well, I mean, what we can control, we can look at off of the court. What can we control? We can still be training. We can still be eating properly. We can still be sleeping. We can still be exercising. We can find a wall. We can be shadow stroking. We can be running. We can be spending time with the family. We can be doing the things that help us balance. We can be reading. We can be taking walks. We can be spending time with our pets. So all of those things are things that help us settle, help us balance. So that's the first piece that we can control. Then when we get on the court, what we can control, well, we haven't been in competition for a while. So it's almost, we need a certain level of patience, and we can start off by finding our rhythm. We can start off by, let me just focus on my split step, which will bring balance. So we want to do with all of these things that are coming at us, bring it back to the small things. We can focus in on how will we be resilient? How can we stay present? Let's talk about rituals. My focus today is to just, in between points, to keep to my ritual. So those are all things that we can control.
And how about for the parents, as they're sitting in the stands watching their kids, socially distanced and masked, hopefully? What are some of the things parents can control?
Well, again, with the parents, it's something we talked about last time. I'd say the parents ask the question, what does my child need from me now? And really that answer is support. They also need something else which is really important. The child hasn't been playing. The child's going to be nervous. The child's going to be apt to be taking in a lot of stuff that's coming at them. So the parent, I want the parent, and I encourage the parent to give your child CPR. Now, what does CPR mean?
Okay, I'm visualizing this, and
Exactly, and that's what you need. You want to bring, you want to help them. You want to get the rhythm going. CPR means the first thing is compassion, compassion for your kid, understanding the courage that they have to step back on that court and to be back in that proverbial fishbowl. So give them compassion, give them patience. To be patient, to know that things aren't going to be perfect right away, and to know that they're doing their best, they're trying their best. And then the R is the reset, to help them, give them the gift of reset, give them the gift of they're going to have to be refocusing. But when you, the parent, gives them CPR, they can then give themselves CPR. I have a client down here in Florida that's playing at one of the top academies, and she was telling me how she's getting all upset. She's getting impatient because she hasn't played, and now she's coming back. And I said to her, if this was your closest friend, what would you say? And she said, I would encourage her. And that's where I got into CPR for her. And it got into the whole thing where, Lisa, this isn't even about tennis. The tennis is going to happen. They're going to get back on the bike and they're going to get faster and faster. But what this is about, when adversity strikes, how can they manage adversity? How can they manage the emotions? And how can they, instead of just going straight linearly, how can they just kind of stay within the road, going a little left, going a little right, but keeping the purposeful course? So for those parents, just smile and enjoy the fact that your child is competing and putting themselves on the line, and what that really takes, because it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. As you're talking, a word keeps popping up in my head as I'm listening to you, and that word is grace. And I'm not thinking of it in a religious sense.
Yes.
That's not my touch point, but more in a sense of human to human interaction, and allowing yourself grace and allowing your child grace. And by grace, I mean giving them the space and giving yourself the space to not be perfect when we get back to this, and continue that. Not be perfect. Forgive yourself and forgive your child for not being perfect. And then moving on, and not dwelling in the imperfection. One of the things that, that I keep thinking about is that as these local tournaments are popping up and these, area events where you don't have to travel, you don't have to stay in a hotel, you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. You can go home and sleep in your own bed. And a lot of these are, one-day events. They're playing all their matches in one day and then you're finished. To me, that's a sense of normalcy in this time of, we don't know what the hell normal looks like anymore.
Absolutely.
So being appreciative of having that opportunity for a little normal in this crazy time.
Absolutely. And, when you say grace, it reminds me of an article that I just submitted to New York Long Island Tennis, where I talk about a caterpillar, that slow caterpillar who goes through the process of breaking through that cocoon, who then becomes a graceful butterfly. And that's what this process is. And we really want to encourage our child to help them and just look at this as just another segment of adversity. And that's really, and again, that's the lesson, is how can we deal with adversity? And understanding, the other thing I wrote about in this article is impermanence, that there's ups and there's downs. And impermanence is completely part of tennis. We look at Federer with all his injuries. We look at Nadal with his injuries. We look at Serena. You go up and you go down. And the player's ability to deal with impermanence and knowing that that's part of the game, it's part of sport, and it's part of life, that it's not just a linear road, kind of gives them the freedom that, okay, well, you know what? I lost the first set. It's not what I wanted to have happen, but it can change. What's important now? What do I need to do? What can I control? And to know that there's going to be ups and downs. We just always think it should be straight ahead.
Yeah.
And this will help us accept things a little more. That,
Right.
okay, well, yeah, not the way I want, but we can then accept that. And it doesn't mean we're bad. And for the parents, one other thing, it's important to remember, tennis isn't who your kid is. Tennis is what your child is doing.
Right.
And really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about this whole notion of, doing better. And for the parents especially, accepting the fact that you're not going to be the perfect tennis parent every time you're out watching your child play. You're not going to be the perfect tennis parent every car ride home. You're not going to be the perfect tennis parent when your child tells you they need to take a break from the sport, or they want to quit. We can't all be perfect all the time, and one of the things that I've tried to share through Parenting Aces, through our website and our podcasts and all of these platforms, is the things that I messed up and learned from and got better at. But even when my son was completing his competitive tennis career, his sophomore year of college, I was still messing stuff up. And one of the things I think that I did get better at was recognizing when I messed up, and then forgiving myself for messing up, and vowing to myself and to my child, but more to myself, to do better next time, right? And I think we have a real opportunity as parents to develop that aspect of our parenting skills. Earlier this week, I presented at an online tennis symposium, and the thrust of the symposium, and it's still going on, was communication and the parent-player-coach triad. And so I spoke a lot about the parent and coach relationship and the importance of communication. But the communication piece between the parent and the child is so crucial through all of this, and especially when we've had this break from competition and now we're coming back to it. It's really important, to keep those lines of communication open. Check in with your kid, right? And ask the question, how are you feeling about this? Are you nervous?
Yeah. What's it like playing in the first tournament that you for a while?
Right.
Are you nervous? And then validating that, I don't blame you. I'd be nervous too. One of the biggest things that kids are afraid of is to admit or to be nervous, when really nervousness is just a sign that they care.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as you were talking, it brought up to me, both for the parent and the child, is to look at this tournament coming back as a challenge, not a threat. And if you looked at it as a challenge, okay, well, this is a challenge. I haven't played in a while. It's going to be a challenge to get my competitive juices back. It's going to be a challenge to bounce back from adversity, as opposed to this is a threat to what you are saying, I have to be perfect.
Mm.
And then no matter what the situation in the matches, if I looked at this as a challenge, what would change?
Mm.
And that automatically focuses on the process of what we need to do. So I'm down 1-4 in the first set. Okay, so this is a challenge. It's the tiebreaker. I'm down 5-2. Okay, so this is a challenge, as opposed to the threat of, oh my God, if I lose this, it's going to mean this, and so is going to think. So challenge versus threat is so, so important. And also as a parent, to help your child, just help them compete.
Mm.
So, you know what? It's your first match back. Today is all about competing. It's not about expectations. It's not about rankings. All you want to do is just compete. And you could even ask your child, so what would it mean to compete? And they're probably going to say, to do my best, to not give up, to take a step back, and to reset. And the funny thing is if you do those things, you compete versus worried about the expectations, then you're going to be back in the process.
Mm-hmm.
If you're down, gosh, call it 5-0 in the first set, and your focus is compete, well, you know what? Then you're going to compete. And competing and looking at things as a challenge really keeps you on the process, on what you need to do next.
Yeah. How do you feel, Rob, about parents then sharing with the child, these are the ways I'm going to focus on the process today. These are the ways I'm going to look at this as a challenge and not as a problem?
So the parent saying that to their kid who's going to be watching the match?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I think it'd be fantastic.
I mean,
Because
just as a way to communicate that, you know, I'm invested in this too, and I have a commitment. I'm making a commitment to you as your parent, as the person who loves you, to help keep you feeling good about this, and that's going to require some work on my side too. So I just want to acknowledge that we're both doing some work here. You're not alone in this.
Yeah, I think that transparency is fantastic. And I think too often parents often don't share times they faced adversity. All the parent sees in most cases, all the child sees in most cases, is where their parent is right now. But they don't understand the path that it took them to get there, the different individual steps. So I really believe transparency is really important. When I work with my clients, that's one of the main ways that I'm able to gain their trust and create a rapport, is let them know that I've been where they are and I've been in that sandbox, and it hasn't been easy. And they're not the only ones. So yeah, I think that's really, really very positive.
Okay. I want to move on to something else, but before we do that, one of our viewers is asking how she can consult with you. So do you want to share your contact information real quick? And we'll do it again at the end too.
Yes, okay. So one of the ways is through email, and my email is rob@insidethezone.com. And that's the 3 words, insidethezone.com. And then my phone number is 973-723-0314.
Okay, I've typed both of those things into the comments, your email and your phone number. So
Perfect.
It's
And,
there for eternity.
and then I'll also suggest this is the book that I've written, Tennis Inside the Zone. Great for kids, great for parents. And it's an interactive book in which the kids actually will fill out. There's 32 different workouts and there's worksheets for each one. So the kid actually becomes the author of the book. So I call it an interactive experiential book.
I love that. And that's on the Parenting Aces shop on Amazon too, for those looking for it. We might get a penny or two if you buy it through that link, but just putting it out there, we tried to make it easy. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, one thing that I think we don't talk about enough is what can we parents do when we screw up with our kids, when we aren't our best selves at their match, when we aren't our best selves during the ride home or at the dinner table?
Well, I'd say first off, wait till they're talking to you again.
Yeah.
You kind of get that, Lisa?
Yeah, and your mileage may vary on the amount of time that takes.
Yeah, yes, you're that's exactly right. And then again, be transparent with your kid and say, first off, you know what? I may not have handled this as best as I could, but I want you to know I come from a place of loving you. And when these situations happen, can you just tell me, what is it that you need from me? How can I be helpful for you? Because I understand that I'm the most important person on the team, or one of the most important people, I think the most important, and I want to be helpful for you. So let's talk about, how can I be helpful before a match? Is it helpful to be talking? Is it helpful to leave you alone? How can I be helpful when you're playing the match? You look over to me. What do you need from me? I mean, what I suggest to parents is kind of to be rather stoic and just supportive, but let the child know that you're not going to be going crazy with enthusiasm. You're also not going to be pulling your hair out. You're watching them because you're enjoying them. And to even be able to say, I really enjoy watching you play would be an amazing thing.
When do we have these conversations? Because obviously in the heat of the moment is not the appropriate time. You said, wait till your child is talking to you again, but what if you're in the middle of a tournament? Should you have the conversation in the middle of a tournament, or is this something that needs to take place outside the parameters of competition?
I think it really depends on your individual child and you're being perceptive, whether they're going to be able to take in information. Certainly if they play a match and then you're going out to lunch, maybe you're taking a walk, they're going to be receptive. But if things are kind of frenetic, really what I would try to do is, as they say in Hamilton, talk less, smile more. And just try to put your child in a comfortable place, because they're trying. This is the thing. Your child's trying to do the best that they can do. And oftentimes by saying nothing, you empower them. The ideal time is after a match, the next day when you're sitting down for breakfast, and then you're asking them, hey, I saw something in the match that I thought was interesting. Would you like me to share it with you? Would it be okay to talk about it? And again, this way you're asking them. And it may turn out that the first 5 times you do this with your child, the answer is no. And if you then don't say anything, on the 6th time, your child's going to say yes. And so you're empowering them, and you're also helping them to figure things out.
And you're building trust, that your child can trust you to honor what they're asking of you, right? And this was a point of contention with my son and me when he was playing. I would ask the question, in an appropriate environment. He would give me the answer, and then I couldn't help myself. I would do the thing he asked me not to do. And that
Right.
happened over and over again until it finally clicked for me. You know, you're so stupid, Lisa. Like, he's telling you what he needs. He's trusting you to honor that, and you're not. And
Yeah.
no wonder there's conflict here. So if your child is being reasonable in their request, then we as the parent have to honor that and build that trust, that rapport, that ability for your child to know they can rely on you to give them what they need and to not give them what they don't need. And I know that's
Exactly.
negative, but you'll get what I'm saying.
So last time we spoke, I read a poem called "Confessions of a Tennis Mom," which you posted on your, which you published. You loved it, and and now is the time to read another poem.
Oh, good. Okay.
For the parents, and this based on what we've been talking about. And this poem is something that I modified. I don't have the original author, but it's called "Fried Eggs and Tennis."
Fried eggs and tennis. Love it. Okay.
So a mother was making breakfast of fried eggs for her son or daughter. Suddenly, they burst in the kitchen and looked at the eggs. Uh-oh. Put some more butter in. You think there's enough butter? Oh my goodness, you're cooking too many eggs at the time. How many eggs did you use? The mother looked in disbelief. Uh-oh, look at the corners. They're going to stick. They're starting to burn. Careful. You never listen to me when you're cooking. Shouldn't you turn them? I think you should turn them now. Don't forget to salt them. Isn't that what happened last time? Use this salt. I like the sea salt. Oh my God, the eggs are going to come out bad. The mother stared at him. What's wrong with you? You think I don't know how to fry a couple eggs? The son calmly replied, I just wanted to show you what it feels like when I'm trying to play tennis.
I've seen that one.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, that one's been shared pretty widely, actually, but it hits home every time I read it.
But modified to tennis?
Yeah.
I wonder if it was mine.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have seen it, and I mean, it's so true. If we could put on, do the role reversal thing, put on our kids' hat and shoes and hear ourselves from their point of view, I think we would all, I won't say all, there's some really good tennis parents out there. Most of us would be mortified at what we heard. And, it's just so emotionally charged to watch your child compete at anything, whether it's the school spelling bee, whether it's a piano recital, or whether it's a tennis match. Because all we want is for our kids to be their best, whatever that means, right?
Yes.
And it's hard to communicate that to a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, even a 20-year-old sometimes. It's very difficult for them to understand the emotion that comes with being their parent.
Absolutely.
And it gets back to that whole notion of grace again, Rob, of, understanding that we're gonna mess up. It's inevitable. Nobody's perfect all the time at this stuff. And we have to give ourselves grace, and we have to ask for grace from our children. Please forgive me. As you said, this comes from the fact that I love you more than anybody else in the world loves you. And I just want the best for you.
Yes. And so important. And again, maybe even before you say anything, think about again, what would be helpful? What does my kid need from me now? And it usually has very, very little to do with tennis. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, there's something I call it's the double bang for your buck. And for the overbearing parent, you don't want to lose your child as a tennis player, because then they're just not even going to listen to you at all. But most importantly, you don't want to lose your child as a child.
Mm.
And that's, I mean, really, that's the most important thing in the world.
Right. Right.
You know,
I want to just throw out there, because some people and some kids, especially teenagers, and especially boy teenagers, are not real great at verbal communication, right? They're not real good at feeling comfortable having these types of conversations face to face. We have so much technology at our fingertips now. If you're not comfortable sitting across the table or even sitting in the car and having this type of voice conversation, send an email, send a text message, ask the question that way, get the response that way, because what that also does is it allows your child to think before they reply. Whereas if you're having this conversation face to face or in the car, your child may feel pressured to answer right away without having time to really process what it is you're asking of them, and without taking the time to really process their thoughts and feelings around it. Whereas if you send a text message or an email for them to respond to and take the time to think out what their response should be, I suspect you're going to get a better response. And that also allows you to then print that out and keep it with you when you're sitting at those tennis matches, and go back and read what your child tells you they want and need from you in the moment. Remind yourself, in real time, this is what she said she wanted me to do. This is how she wants me to behave. These are the things she wants to talk about or do between matches, and this is my role in it. And you've got a hard copy of it right there that you can keep in your little bag or whatever it is you take with you. And it's a great way to give each of you the space to have a thoughtful communication and exchange of ideas.
yes, and certainly now there's so many different modes of communication. And at the forefront of that, we need to remember that children will talk to those who listen. And when your child really feels like you're listening and not with an answer, well, you should have done this, you could have done this. And this may take a little while for the relationship where it is now, because it's possible the parent really hasn't been listening. They've been thrusting their agenda, but children will talk to those who listen, and really, really powerful. It's a lot. They say that with anyone. If you listen, people will talk, and allow pauses. And it's okay if sometimes when I start a session with someone, the child, I'll ask them, so how was your day? And they'll say, well, it was good. And I'll say, well, when I was a kid, I used to say good too. And I always knew that there was so much more behind that. So tell me, what exactly did make it good?
Yeah.
And so, or what was it that made it good? So you can kind of, tell me more about that. So you can kind of probe.
Yeah, I like that. And I do want the parents out there to know that just because you screwed up in the past, it's not a done deal. You haven't caused, likely, hopefully, you haven't caused irreparable damage in your relationship with your child. There is always time to change and to fix it, and to make that effort and show your child that you are committed to having a good, solid relationship with them, and to be able to come out and watch them play tennis and not embarrass them or stress them out or make them mad. That you're working on that and you're committed to it. And I think that's important too. Is, again, I think a lot of times as parents, we think it's too late. I've already done so much damage. I've screwed up for all these years, and there's just, it's done. There's nothing more for me to do. So either I just write off this whole thing and don't go to the matches anymore, or, find some other way to separate myself from my child. But that's really sad to me. And
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to feel that way, that it's too late or it's
No. Yeah.
irreparable.
And how about this? We started the conversation talking about that this is a reset button for everyone, and everyone's starting now back from the same place.
Mhm.
Parents as well can say, this is a reset button for me. My child hasn't competed in this long. I'm going to now, you can even say to your child, hey, you know what? I have to say, I'm really excited to just watch you play. I'm really excited to just be here and support you. I know in the past, before I've gotten emotional, going forward, I'm going to hit the reset button. And I just want to watch you play. And I know this is hard. I remember when I was a child and I had such and such situation. So for the parent, it's a reset. It's starting from a level playing field. And to your point, Lisa, no, of course, it's not irreparable damage. This is your child. And it's so important that you connect with your child on things beyond tennis.
Mm.
Your child isn't just an athlete, they're a whole human athlete. And they have all kinds of interests. They bring their heart, they have energy, they have spirit. They have all of these things that doesn't make them better or worse than other people, but makes them who they are. And those are the things you want to connect with them on as well. Do they love to draw? Do they love to sing? Do they love to play music? Because all of those things I use with my clients. And usually, for instance, I had an athlete who loves to draw. And so I had her draw me a picture. And we talked about when she was drawing it, what did it feel like? How does she know she's doing the right colors? How does she know she's doing the right things? And she said, you know what? I don't, but I just go with what I feel.
Mm.
I asked her, how does it feel when she's doing it? It feels so great. I said, so how could we start to bring some of those things to the tennis court? But really connecting with your child as a whole human and bringing into the respect, the gratitude, the patience, the resiliency, almost the tools of a whole human athlete, and knowing, letting them know that, which I think they know, but that it's not just a talent, a technique, and it's the skills. It's now the mental. It's the whole picture. That's why when we look at a Federer, an Agassi, a Djokovic, a Nadal, a Serena, an Andreescu, Wozniacki, if any of them tried to play like any of the others, they would fail miserably.
Mm.
What they do best is they play their game. And ultimately, that's the lesson you want your child to learn, is to play their game, but in a greater scale, to be the best they can be, not their best, and not try to be someone else, because everyone else is taken.
Yeah.
And it's, let's just be who you are. And that's even important when we talk about coming back to competition. Bring it back to the small stuff.
Yeah.
Play your game and not trying to play someone else's game. Obviously, you have a plan B and a plan C,
Right.
but know what you do.
Yeah. So I want to just give parents a glimpse into the future, maybe a little glimpse into the future, because you mentioned music and
Yes.
ways to connect with your child outside of tennis. And one of the ways my son and I connected when he was playing junior tennis and we were traveling to tournaments is he was always in control of the music in the car. That was kind of our deal. I drove, but he controlled what we were listening to. And of course, as he grew and matured and changed, his tastes in music grew and matured and changed. Matured, I don't know if matured is the right word, but his taste in music certainly changed over the years. And I was exposed to music that I didn't, necessarily know. Now my son's turning 24 on Saturday, which is freaking me out. That's my baby is going to be 24, which is crazy. But now when I'm riding in the car or when I've got my phone on shuffle and a song comes up that is something we would listen to on the way to a tournament or between matches or whatever, I will screenshot it and I'll send him a quick text, hey, do you remember when we were driving here or when we went out to lunch there and we were listening to this song, and do you remember blah, blah, blah? And it triggers all of these memories of the time that he and I spent together. And to me, that's the beauty of tennis and junior tennis and the opportunities to spend quality time with your child. And I will tell you, there were times we were listening to those songs in the car where the music kept getting louder and louder because he was trying to tune me out and sending me a not so subtle message to stop talking and stop telling him all the stuff he messed up. So it's not that, the music was always a positive thing, but there were always positive, or now there are always positive connections to these songs and these albums and these artists that we listen to. And it's a way for us to continue to connect. And I love that.
Yeah, those are the true connections. Yeah. And from looking at your site, music is still a very integral part of your son's life.
Yeah, very much so.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he's done music for you. He's got a website.
Yeah.
And so really what you're also saying as a parent is you care about him and his interest beyond tennis. And you unconditionally care about him. You didn't put conditions on the music.
Right.
And that's the lesson here, is you want to unconditionally care about his tennis, or in the case of a female, her tennis, the same way, with no conditions. You're not going to treat him different, win or loss.
Right. Yeah, no, this is great. Rob, we've been talking for about almost 50 minutes now, and
goes so fast.
I know. I love talking with you, and when we get offline, I have another connection for the two of us that I didn't realize we had in common, but I found out this week. But that said, what else do you want to tell the parents out there to help them mentally and emotionally prepare for being back at the competition scene?
Yeah, again, taking it a step back and helping your child bring who they are to what they do. And that who they are is that whole person, the talent, the technique, the skills, their heart, their energy, their spirit. And you can help them keep the focus on what they can control. You can help them keep the focus on the challenge versus the threat. You can help them keep the focus on competing versus expectations. And let them know, just this is a reset for everyone. And it wouldn't be a bad idea, speaking about resets, if the parents would text their kid within 24 hours before they get back on the court and say, I know I haven't said this, but I want to let you know I appreciate ... So I may not have said this, but I appreciate ... what you appreciate about your child.
Those dots are bullet points, right?
Those dots. So I appreciate your courage in playing. I appreciate your love for your sister or brother. I appreciate all of, so right, you're just the different things, the couple things that you appreciate. because oftentimes that gets lost. And what do you appreciate about your child? I appreciate your dedication. I appreciate your motivation. I appreciate your hard work. So you're not saying I appreciate the fact that you're number 32 in the nation. No, you're giving them the process of
Yeah.
what it took to get there, the resiliency, the determination, the purpose, the focus. And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yeah.
It's all about fun. Because again, it's about the relationship with your child, just like what you spoke about. Because if you have that relationship, they're going to walk on the court in a calm, centered place. If the relationship feels conditional, then you're just another person that they have to satisfy expectations.
Yeah, that's a big statement right there. Yeah. All right, Rob Polishook, thank you so much. Hold your book up one more time so people can look for that, Inside the Tennis Zone. And Rob's email and phone number are in the comments here. So if you want to reach out to him, he is available for consultations and would love to speak with you. I will tell you from my own interactions with you, Rob, you are quick to respond. So for somebody that's reaching out, he will be back in touch. He's great about that. Maybe you want to mention that you heard him on Parenting Aces, and that'll give him a little bit of a nudge to get back quicker. But Rob, again, thank you so much. I really value these conversations, and I know the Parenting Aces community, because they've told me, values these conversations as well. So thank you again.
Lisa, thank you so much. And you're doing great work. And it's so much fun to talk to you and to talk to all of your viewers. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you next time, guys. We've got another live stream coming Monday morning, so check out the schedule on our Facebook page. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks.